All right, so the big thing, obviously that we're dealing with in this point in the month is that we had an eclipse on November 30th, and that was in the sign of Gemini. And we're having another eclipse on the 14th. So, and that one's going to be in Sagittarius. So right in the middle of eclipse season this week. And I have to say that one of the ways that you may see this eclipse energy show up in your life is a feeling of discomfort, and it can show up depending on where this is happening in your chart, in slightly different ways, but it is a little bit of a restlessness. It's a little bit anxiety. There's a lot of there's sort of an undercurrent of tension because we are about to make this enormous leap, this enormous paradigm shift the week of the 14th. So this week is really it's, I guess I want to say it's the calm before the storm, but I don't really see things. I wouldn't really interpret necessarily what's coming a storm. However, it is a real kind of electrical current running through the consciousness. And those of us who are more sensitive to this kind of energy will want to take good care of your own energy body, which means maybe more meditation, more time alone, more time in Epsom salt baths, maybe taking much more care about the people that you encounter, because this is a once in a 20-year shift that we're coming up on the week of the 14th. So it's not this week, but next week, but still we're feeling it already. And it's a once in a 200-year cycle that is ending and beginning. Okay, so it's big. We're in the midst of a paradigm shift culturally, globally, as far as our consciousness goes. This is a huge moment, and it's very hard for us mere humans and our tiny brains to really grasp exactly how big this is. So let's get into some of the charts, and we'll talk about each sign. If this is the first time you're joining me on Sunday, I do this every Sunday live, and I record it for YouTube so that you can skip ahead to your sign. You don't have to listen to all of the signs. I put timestamps on the video. And this should also be posted on Instagram for about and that's my dog, for about a day. I think it's 24 hours. Hold on. Okay. Working from home. All right. Aries and Aries rising. So Aries, you are probably going to start to feel a continued pickup of speed this week. It's not quite as fast as it will be the week of the 14th and beyond, but it's definitely better than it has been. And that's largely because Mars is finally moving a little bit closer at its normal pace. And it's in the first house for Aries, and it's a huge important planet for Aries. So this is really a week where on the one hand, you get more energy you get more done. There's that. The little hitch in this for Aries and Aries rising is that the moon changes signs every 2 days. But as we've talked about in the past, whenever the moon is moving through cardinal signs, and that's Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn, we're going to have a revisit of the Capricorn problem that I've been talking about all year, which is Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and Capricorn, which has been the signature of the pandemic and the signature of our crumbling infrastructure, whether it's personal, whether it's national, whether it's universal. It's the big thing of 2020 that we're going to be dealing with for generations. But on a personal level, for Aries and Aries rising, this Libra moon is going to square off from the partnership area to the professional area. And that will start right around Wednesday. So for Aries and Aries rising, I would say Wednesday, Thursday are probably your most testy days, just because that moon is going to be opposite Mars for a short time. Let's see if it's on there on Thursday morning, and it'll be squaring off with all of these archetypes that are really representing the demands that your career is taking, the demands of a boss, some sort of authority figure that you have some sort of confrontation with. That's sort of how this shifting moon in this week only are going to be affecting you. The other big thing that's happening this week, I have to say, overall, this is not a super eventful week taken by itself. It's really one of those weeks that you have to see in the context of the two eclipses, because those eclipses are so potent, so powerful. And in addition to that, we have this Jupiter-Saturn shift into Aquarius. It's happening on the winter solstice. We're really in this wobbly time where we're in between two paradigms. We're in between two universes. We're in between two timelines, if you want to think of it in terms of, parallel realities. We are really in the middle. And so this week, things could begin to change. I mean, I do think with a moon moving into a cardinal sign, the transiting moon, you'll have a few days where things are happening, and that's going to be the difference. And I was talking to a client about this yesterday, where things have been stagnant for us for so long, like, it feels like months, and it has been months. Things have just been like on lockdown and on, slow motion speed, that when things begin to pick up speed to their normal pace, as they are going to be doing in the next 3 weeks, it's going to feel like warp speed to us because we've just been so accustomed and acclimated to this other kind of nothing happening kind of mode except for bad news. Okay. But back to Aries and Aries rising, I would say, Aries, you really want to take it easy with the relationships. You don't want to try to push your point through so much. You do want to try and be patient, give other people a little bit more room to disagree with you, just because the moon in that square alignment with the Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, it can create tension with a boss, with an authority figure, with a landlord, with a judge, if you're doing some sort of legal work. So you do want to take that into consideration. What else do I want to say? Okay, so Wednesday we have the sun is squaring Neptune. That happens every year. Neptune is sort of that planet that rules things that we aren't sure of, confusion, fog. It also represents, particularly where it's located in the Aries chart, our relationship to the divine. And Aries and Aries rising, because the sun is in the 9th house for you and Neptune is in that deep 12th house, you could find news or events of this week shifting your belief systems into a more compassionate, more more willing to help the needy kind of a vibe. I think that the square aspect is one that demands action. So it could be that you are called to help. And, everyone knows that Aries and Aries rising, they're great at the start. They know how to get things done. They know how to take action quickly. They're sort of like the paramedics of the soldiers, the paramedics of the zodiac. So you may be called on to help someone. Hold on one second. The other thing I want to mention, Thursday, Friday, and these are aspects we're all going to be feeling. I'm going to talk about how they affect everybody's sign, but excuse me, Venus is going to make a nice alignment with Pluto on Thursday. And Venus for Aries, Aries rising is in that area that rules joint resources, money that you share with someone else, loans that you get. This could be something that money, sex. Yeah. So this could be something that you get from your boss, even though there's that tension with a boss this week. It could be that you end up getting a loan, or it's money you don't have to earn, or your partner gets some sort of money or promotion. But it's positive and it involves resources and support. So that's something that you can look forward to Thursday. And then when we get into Friday, the sun is going to trine Mars. So that's really going to feel good for Aries and Aries rising, having that sun and Mars come together in a very supportive way. you're able to get a lot done. You are also probably feeling more effective in whatever it is you have been doing. You may, this is a thing, that ninth house where the sun is for Aries has to do with travel, long distance travel, but also cross-cultural relationships and higher learning. This could be an area where you're driven to get a certification, go back to school, or some effort that you are in the process of applying for. Those kinds of things could reach a point the end of this week where you feel pretty confident that you're in a good spot to achieve something that involves the higher mind. Let's see what else. Okay, I think that's enough. I'm sort of getting a little bit carried away with Aries and Aries rising, but let's go to Taurus and Taurus rising. And if this is the first time that you're on this call with me, I do this every Sunday. I always do it live. And hi, Tiffany. Hi, Holly. Is that, let's see, EMC2VT. I'm not sure who that is, but hello. Hi, M. All right. So Taurus and Taurus rising, we're looking at Venus because Venus rules your chart. Venus happens to be making a lovely, lovely trine with Neptune. It really finished its precise exactitude yesterday, but you're still feeling that. It feels like a lovely kind of time with friends, time with a partner, time with your tribe. We're feeling a real deep sense of belonging. It's a really great feeling. So I would say that's this weekend. You can really revel in that. Now I do want to talk about, let's see, what else do we want to talk about? That moon in Libra. The moon is going to be moving through the house for Taurus that rules day-to-day routines, getting some work done, and your health and your well-being. So your focus could be on your health and how your belief system affects your health and well-being. Because that moon is in the sixth, is going to square off with that Capricorn problem, which is really in Taurus's chart. It has to do with changing what you have faith in, maybe letting go of an old faith system, an old belief system, and making more authentic, how making how you worship or how you show your faith in your day-to-day life. It may be that you have some health problems because that moon is going to oppose Mars. Where does that happen? That's Thursday. So Taurus and Taurus rising, I would just say your focus probably turns to your health and well-being and making sure that you're taking good care of yourself and aligning your sense of what this reminds me of is folks that may get a little bit get into a delusional state about COVID or coronavirus, like they feel like they're in what's the word, indestructible, and their belief system of feeling indestructible ends up putting them in a situation where they actually get infected. That could happen with the Taurus rising folks, because your sense of yourself, your sense of well-being, your sense of physical health is in direct conflict with your belief system. Invincible. Thank you, Lisa. So this is Taurus and Taurus rising. It's a definitely midweek. We're talking about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, focusing on your health and well-being. One of the things that happens Thursday that I do really like is Venus, the ruler of Taurus, making a sextile alignment to Pluto. And that feels like resiliency. So I would say that in some aspects that could be a partner feeling more resilient because that Venus is transiting through your seventh house. And it just could be your connection to the outer world, the seventh house, making an alignment with Pluto. So maybe you're getting the support you need yourself to feel more resilient. Maybe your faith is renewed in your partner, in your community, in the outside world, in your support system, because that Pluto is interacting with Venus from the ninth. That's really about renewal of faith, a resiliency of faith. How else could I see that? but you know, I think there are a lot of elements for Taurus and Taurus rising that are suggesting you lay low and take care of yourself, because you've got Mars that's been kicking around in that 12th house for months. Your energy levels just have not been what you would like them to be. And I would say to Taurus, know that that is going to end in January. So take this time as you have it to take care of yourself, to slow down, because once we get into January, you're going to be kind of off to the races and going really strong during that time. Okay, I'm going to move on to Gemini and Gemini rising. And we're going to look at Mercury and what Mercury is doing. So for Gemini and Gemini rising, Mercury has been in the 7th house. And I think it joins up with the sun pretty soon, but not this week. Let's see. Yeah, it's so Mercury is close to the sun, but it doesn't get into a conjunction just yet. Mercury in the 7th for Gemini and Gemini rising is really about communicating with a partner, because the sun is there as well. There's a lot of focus on partnership or on negotiation. So if your work involves a lot of litigation, negotiation, interviewing people, but being involved in the exchange of information, that's really a big focus. And that continues to be a focus all the way through till the 20th, because that's when Mercury finally leaves Sagittarius. But I do want to talk about this moon as it moves through the 5th house for you. You know, even though that moon in Libra on Wednesday and Thursday, is it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, actually? Wait, no, I'm sorry, Wednesday, Thursday. The moon in Libra does give you this lift because it's trine your decan, it's trine Gemini. Even though it's square this area that has to do with maybe money and your children, or money and a creative process. Those would be the ways I could see your focus turning to investments that you've made that are affecting a creative process or that you need to use for a child. Those are ways that that moon in Libra could affect you Wednesday and Thursday. As the moon moves into Scorpio, that part of your issue probably gets resolved, and that's the end of Thursday into Friday. And then the moon is going to, I do want to just pause on that and talk about Wednesday and Thursday for Gemini and Gemini rising. That sun square Neptune, followed by Venus sextile Pluto. So there is something going on Wednesday about your negotiations with a partner, and that could be a business partner, or it could be a marriage partner, it could be a manager, agent, counselor kind of relationship. It's squaring off with Neptune in the 10th, and that's, you know, your boss, that's a judge, that's an authority figure that you have to negotiate with. There's a little bit of conflict there. And I don't, you know, a square aspect doesn't necessarily mean, and we're talking about Wednesday, December 9th, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have an argument, but it does mean that there's activity, action, you're having to make your point, you're having to, you're being called to take action that involves an authority figure, you asserting yourself, trying to be heard, and there being a little bit of disconnect or confusion because Neptune is involved. Now, Neptune has been there for years now, so it's not a new issue for you. However, it is going to take a little bit more effort to get your point across Wednesday, Thursday because of that. Now, when Venus makes a nice alignment from the 6th house to that Pluto in the 8th house, let's see, how do I want to say that? That does feel like you do, because the Venus is transiting through your house of work, you're able to resolve whatever it is. And it does feel like you're in a good spot the rest of this. When does Venus change signs? Not for a while. You're in a good spot in terms of, you know, having support at work to get the things done you need to get done. To, you know, to also, where's Venus? Sorry, I know it's a while from now, but anyway, Venus in the 6th house for Gemini and Gemini rising is helpful for getting things done at work. I can say that confidently. The main issue for you this week, I think, is working with your creative project, or if you're a parent, with your children and their needs, and finding some common ground around shared money, joint resources, and also issues around intimacy. Now, if you're single and dating, this moon in the 5th now turns into something romantic, something around a new relationship, conflicts with intimacy there. So those are kind of the variety of ways I could see that resolve. What else do I want to say? I think that's it. I'm going to move on to, comes after Gemini, Cancer, and Cancer rising. Okay, let's take some. So Cancer. Hey, Linz. Cancer is definitely one of those signs that gets really sensitive around these eclipse cycles. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So if you are a Cancer rising, Cancer moon, Cancer sun, you want to be taking extra care of your energy body. And when I say your energy body, I mean your physical body, but also your state of mind, your feeling of groundedness. So that could be taking more baths than usual. Soaking in Epsom salt baths is a very grounding way for water signs to feel rejuvenated. And that's not just sun signs, that's sun, moon, rising. Or if you happen to have a stellium, which is more than 3 planets in a water sign, water can be very grounding and healing for you. For Cancer and Cancer rising, I would say, this eclipse cycle is activating how you take care of your body and how you learn how to surrender control. So it's the conflict or the paradox of being in your body while also being in a place of surrender. And this is the middle of this eclipse cycle. So you're going to be focusing on that quite a bit. Just it's like the ambient tension that you're dealing with this idea of surrender, this idea of also being somewhat reverent, using the idea of the body being sacred around your self-care. So it's sort of integrating a feeling of, I am a holy being and I deserve all of the care and self-love that I can harness for myself. Because of that Capricorn stellium in the 7th house, it's been a very exhausting and very demanding year for Cancer and Cancer rising in terms of releasing a lot of relationship, maybe letting go of certain relationships, maybe feeling weighed down by responsibility in relationship as well. And that is coming to a close. As we move into the week of the 14th, that's going to continue to feel a little bit lighter and lighter the further we get into December and then into January as well. But let's talk about the moon in Libra, because, anytime we have a Cancer sign, a cardinal sign dealing with the transiting moon, and like I said, the moon changes signs every 2 days. And that's kind of why Cancer gets its reputation for being moody, because every time that moon changes, the Cancer folks are changing too. So with the moon squaring off with that Capricorn stellium, you could see some family issues coming up, Cancer. You could see some deep psychological, your relationship with yourself and your rooted, how you were raised, that kind of stuff coming up and affecting your relationship. It could be that, there are a lot of demands on you work-wise, Cancer, and you're getting really worn out. And that sort of exhaustion level, it bleeds over into your relationships, and it bleeds over into the way that you deal with your family. So maybe you just snap at somebody you don't mean to snap at because you're just tired and cranky. You know, it looks like Cancer has really been burning the midnight oil for quite some time now. And the career demands and the work demands are taking its toll on your health. And that's a moment where Cancer really needs to slow down. And as that moon transits the deepest part of your chart, Wednesday and Thursday, you take a minute to do some self-care. The sun is going to be squaring off with Neptune. So I would say, you know, you might want to return to whatever spiritual practices you have this week to get you through. It could be a time where you need to go back to a meditation. You need to go back to, if you're, you know, worship with a large congregation, you need to go back to that to regain some strength. Because, you know, water signs in general are much more affected by these big astrological events. And we're having like the biggest astrological event we've had in 200 years coming up this, you know, in a week's time. I mean, 2 weeks, 2 weeks to be exact, but still, it's very close. So that's what I would say for Cancer. I would say, you know, take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your soul this week, because I can see there being some tension building in this relationship area and also family. You want to make sure that you are in a place where you can be patient and you can be in your integrity and you can be feeling strong enough, you know, to deal with whatever conflict comes up for you. Okay, I'm going to move on to Gemini. No, we did Gemini. Let's see. Leo and Leo rising. All right, Leo. Let's see. Now, Leo, like Cancer, is ruled by whatever the sun is doing. So even though they aren't as maybe as emotional as a Cancer, they're definitely known for being somewhat dramatic. And that's why you could say that by saying that the sun changes signs every 4 weeks, because the sun rules Leo. That's kind of the mood that Leo is going to be in. Whatever sign it happens, the sun happens to be in, that's the way your Leo friend or loved one is going to show up. Now, the sun is in a really great place for Leo right now. It's in the 5th house. It's all about celebration and joy and, you know, that childlike wonder or that playful childlike self being activated. However, it's also the eclipse cycle in that same place. So for Leo and Leo rising, you might be, I mean, I would say Leo risings, like Cancer, are probably really worn out. And that's because in both cases, these two charts, 6th house is really being activated, but even more so for Leo. Leo has been restructuring the work area, looking at the way they take care of their bodies, looking at a health issue, really trying to get everything efficiently moving so that all of their systems are streamlined. And they've had to be flexible and move things around. They've had to let go of certain priorities and take on other priorities. It's heavy and it's probably taking its toll. So this week, Leo, I would say, let's look at what the sun is doing again. The sun makes a square aspect to that Neptune in the 8th. So this could be an issue around intimacy. If you happen to be dating and single, or dating in general, that sun in the 5th house is lighting up your availability for a playmate, right? But the square to Neptune can make that a little complicated. It can make the intimacy issue a little bit hard to grasp. Maybe that person isn't available like that you would hope they would be. Maybe that person is putting up some kind of a smoke screen, so you don't really know what's going on. Having the sun, then let's see what happens later in the week. On Friday, that sun is going to trine Mars in the 9th house. That's really positive. It's also going to be exactly opposed the node, the north node. So the turning point for Leo rising is probably going to come on Friday. Some kind of event or opportunity that involves the higher education, higher mind, international relationships. Even your esoteric practice is going to come up on Friday in a really positive way and could actually mark a turning point in a goal. So, Leo and Leo rising has been working so hard this year to make some headway professionally. And this Friday feels like there's something, you get some sort of gift, some sort of offer, some sort of opportunity that allows you to really step into a goal, achieving a goal. That feels good. And, the other thing you've got going is the moon moving into the third house. This is Wednesday, Thursday mostly, and that moon is squaring off with all that hard work you're doing. So I kind of feel like, Leo, once we get to Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, you're kind of busy social media wise. You're doing a lot of communicating, you're doing a lot of networking, you're doing a lot of work to connect yourself with other like-minded people that can help you make a pretty significant leap into that next level. So it does feel like an important week for Leo rising, but anytime we've got an eclipse cycle, Leos are going to feel them strongly because they're ruled by the sun. And we're about to, we've just finished this lunar eclipse, which was all about, for Leo and Leo rising, goals and how you achieve those goals. And now we're going to move into this new moon in Sagittarius, the 14th, which is all about how you show up as a creator. And that being maybe making a bigger statement as a creator. So that sounds good. I'm actually very excited about this December 14th eclipse, just looking at some of the planets that are lining up in a positive way. And we'll talk about this a lot next Sunday. And I'll also be posting about that eclipse as well, because it's big. And that the week of the 14th is like a lot of things start happening. That's the thing. I really feel like we're in this, wormhole right now where we can kind of feel all of the stuff that we've been dealing with all year beginning to sort of liquefy and disintegrate, and the new way of being kind of, perking up and germinating and beginning to make itself known. So it is this very transitional time. So I haven't been saying this, but if you're just joining and you haven't been on my call before, I do this every Sunday live on Instagram. I record it for YouTube. I post it on YouTube with clickable timestamps, so you don't have to sit through the whole presentation. You can go straight to your sign. And I usually recommend that you listen for your sun and rising sign, because both of those can give you a lot of information about the week ahead. What else do I want to say? Let's move on to Virgo and Virgo rising. So Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. And Mercury has been making its tour of the fourth house. So issues around family, issues around where you physically live and how that might need to change are going to continue to be important. With a Virgo, any mutable sign, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, Sag, these are the signs that are really lit up by the eclipse cycles. And if you're not familiar with the eclipse cycles, they happen 2 or 3 times a year, 3 or 4, about 3 times a year. And they happen in a new sign every year. And with this eclipse cycle that's happening right now and through 2021, Virgo, Pisces, Sag, and Gemini are the ones whose lives are about to change. And it depends on which one you are as to where, but it is some sort of essential part of your life that's about to change. For Virgo, it's where you physically live. It's where your relationship with your family, your root system, your relationship with yourself, and how you release some old habits, some ways of being that maybe you developed as a child that you're now ready to let go of. So it can be somewhat poignant, because having the eclipses in that 4th house and 10th house, it's really about changing who you are at the essential part of yourself so that you can show up in a new way in the world. This week, having that Mercury in the 4th house, and it will be making alignments to not a whole lot, really. So mainly we're looking at the moon then for a real indicator of how things are going to shift for you this week. And it starts off the moon being in Virgo today and tomorrow, taking action to assert yourself, that, maybe you're dealing with issues with a family member that require some action, more assertiveness, that require you to be a little bit more outspoken, that require some negotiation. Those are ways that it could show up today, tomorrow, and even part of Tuesday. By the time we get to Wednesday and Thursday, you're looking more at your earning power, your value system. Maybe money issues or money problems come up as that moon opposes Mars in the 8th house. What are we spending? What are we saving? Do we need to apply for a loan? What is the situation with the government, unemployment? That kind of stuff could come up Wednesday, Thursday. And then when we get to Friday and the sun trines these lovely, the Mars and the North and South node, this could be a moment where there's some resolution with the money issue. There's some resolution with a family issue. And it becomes somewhat of a turning point for you with your family and with your professional life, with your family and how you show up in the world, or your status, or your relationship with an authority figure who can really change your life and influence it by making some sort of key decision. That's how things might manifest later in the week. But there is it feels like there's a lot of communication, a lot of negotiation, and a lot of, being confronted with financial issues that involve your family and your professional life, that could come up. Now, the squaring off of the moon from that house of income to all the Capricorn in the 5th house, this could also have to do with money and the needs of a child, or money and the needs of a creative project, or your value system and how you're taking care of yourself. That self-care, the 5th house is really about, expressing your essential self, your divine self. And with the moon squaring off with that, the needs of your value, you may look at how you value yourself differently. That may just come up. Now, I'm interpreting right now the transiting moon. And like I said, the transiting moon changes signs every 2 days. So this event for Virgo and Virgo rising, of looking at how you value yourself and, kind of being confronted with the lack of self-care, maybe this is a little bit of a passing influence. However, it is something you've been dealing with off and on all year, and you just get a little reminder this coming week. Oh yeah, we're still dealing with that. We're on the tail end of working through that Capricorn problem, which in the case of Virgo is self-care and creativity. And those two things go hand in hand. Like, how can I really show up creatively if I'm not taking good care of myself? And if I don't value my creative output the way I should, how can I really show up authentically? So those are kind of the pieces that Virgo might be dealing with this week. All right, let's move on to Libra and Libra rising. And I do try to give each sign about 3 minutes at least. Some weeks, some signs get more than others, but I hope it all sort of balances out once we get to the end of the year. I mean, I've only been doing this now for, God, it's been like 9 months or something, since March. And I'm going to be posting this to YouTube, and it's going to have clickable timestamps so you can go straight to your sign and skip ahead. I usually try to get this posted up to YouTube by the end of the day. But then it's also on Instagram, so you can re-listen to it. I don't know that you have the option to skip ahead on Instagram. But I do this every Sunday, so whoever's showing up and is brand new, welcome, thank you. And for those of you who show up every week, thank you very much for being here. I get as much out of this as you do, probably maybe even more. Okay, Libra, we're looking at Venus and what Venus is doing. Venus is in the house of money and values and how you earn a living. And it's in a lovely alignment today with Neptune, which is your day-to-day activities. You know, so this could be that Venus is that Libra is finally getting a little bit of a break from some of the heaviness that you've been experiencing all year. It's a little bit of a temporary break because this Venus trine Neptune only is lasting for another, you know, maybe the beginning of the week, Monday. And then the things move to that moon in Libra. So the moon is moving out of that 12th house, which is kind of giving you a little bit of respite and regeneration this weekend, and moving into the first house where you're being called on to assert yourself a little bit more. You're so welcome, Christine and Allison. Moon in Libra is going to square off with all that Capricorn. And so again, this is the problem of the year, the problem of 2020. You know, you get a reminder, Libra, that, oh yeah, we still are dealing with the family issue, but we're on the tail end of it now. And that's true for all of us. Wherever you've had the most hardship this year, wherever things have felt the most exhausting, the most draining, the most demanding of your time and responsibility and effort, that is winding up and finishing. And it's not that the problems of life completely evaporate, but the problem is not as intense next year, and it is not as demanding, and it's just not as grim. The problem moves into a new area. So we're all going to be restructuring a new part of our lives in 2021 and 2022 and a little bit of 2023. But the Saturn in Capricorn changing signs from Capricorn, which is really heavy and quite somber, and into Aquarius, which this actually happens on the 16th. So it's coming up. It starts a whole new 2.5-year cycle, and it gives us a little bit more breathing room than this last Saturn in Capricorn. And there are a number of other reasons for that, but I'm going to talk more about that the next 2 weeks. But for Libra, I'm really looking at how this moon moving through your first house, and this happens once a month, so it's not like, you know, that dramatic. However, it does make you a little bit more sensitive. Monday, we're really talking about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It makes you a little bit, Wednesday, Thursday, a little more sensitive, a little more triggered. And then as the moon moves to Scorpio on Thursday night and into Friday and Saturday, you know, that actually might feel okay because the moon is going to contact Venus. I don't know why that's not on here, but the moon will transit through Venus basically on Friday. And there could be some financial opportunity for you actually with that, because Venus is in that second house of earning power. You might find something changes with your finances, something comes in that's new with your finances, and it might even be somewhat surprising. And then we get to that lovely aspect. I'm going to back up a little bit. Transit Venus making an alignment with Pluto on Thursday. Yeah. You know, I wonder if there's something financial that has to do with your property, that has to do with a family member. Maybe you get some help from a family member financially. That could be one way that works out. Maybe your earning power is that you're feeling more confident about your earning power. That's another way that could show up at the end of the week. Yeah. And then just to touch on what the eclipses are doing for Libra, because we are in that sort of wormhole of eclipses, you may still be trying to figure out what you believe and why you believe it. You may still be full of questions around what direction you want to take in life and what you've just let go of and where you want to go next. So there is a good chance, Libra, that you're experiencing some anxiety around life changes right now. And I would say, keep the faith. Things are about to change in an awesome way when Jupiter and Saturn move into an air sign. That's going to change everything for you. And there's going to be a significant lift of spirits once we get to the end of this month. So not that much longer. All right. Moving on to Scorpio and Scorpio rising. And Scorpio, right now, you've got Venus in the first house, which is very helpful. It definitely makes you more seductive than usual. So if that's important, you have that. I would say with Scorpio rising and the Venus making a trine aspect to Neptune this weekend, there may have been some sexy time. There may have been some playfulness. There may have been some opportunity for a nice date. If people still do that out in the world, I don't know if we're able to go outside. But I do think that this has probably felt a little bit sweeter, a little bit more poignant this weekend than you've had in a while. Venus is going to, well, let's talk about what the moon is doing. The moon is moving through Libra. I'm sorry, it's moving through that area of your goals and how you feel about those goals, until we get to Tuesday. So you may be looking at, what have I managed to achieve, and where do I really belong, and how is this going to communicate my authenticity to the world, where how I've maybe changed a profession, changed my status, or changed my profession in some way, and is this where I really need to be? So maybe a little bit of anxiety, questioning some of these things, some of these, where do I belong and how do I feel about where I am right now? Mars is starting to pick up speed for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. So the feeling of stuckness that you've had for quite a while, that's going to start to get better and better, but it is a slow build, and we're still in the gradual build of that this week. Next week, the 14th, gets much faster. But this week, we're still slow building it, but at least you're moving in the right direction. What else do I want to say about that? The big thing that I see for Scorpio is that Venus connection to Pluto on Thursday, and then the moon moving into your sign on Thursday night and into Friday and Saturday. So it feels good. And then the sun is going to trine Mars. So actually, Scorpio and Scorpio rising, I could see the end of the week feeling really good for you. You might actually get some kind of income news, some kind of recognition for your efforts, or maybe it's just you yourself feeling super effective by the end of the week, feeling like your branding is on target, feeling like people are seeing you in the light that you want to be seen in, and really being seeing that those efforts are starting to really produce some income even. With Venus from the first sextile that Pluto in the third, that's really about believing in yourself, allowing other people to praise you and accepting that praise. The third house also has to do with your communication power, your ability to speak truth to power. That too could get really activated. So it's positive. It feels good. It feels like you have a little bit of you're coming out of a little bit of an uncertain time this weekend and maybe early in the week. And then by the time we get to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're in a better place, feeling more confident, feeling more effective. I did want to say something about that moon opposite Uranus. I think that the moon moving through Sagittarius on Saturday and Sunday of next week, you could see some changes in your income. And the thing about Scorpio and Scorpio rising, the eclipse cycle is affecting your income. It's affecting your earned income and how much money you have with a partner, or how much money you're getting from a source that is just gifting you the money, whether it's a loan or inheritance or governmental support. That's really what you can count on more, is the support you don't have to earn. Your earning power is in a changing cycle of change, and a cycle of maybe releasing one way of earning and embracing a new way of earning. But it is a transitional time for you because of that eclipse coming on the 14th. Yeah, Ryan says, bring it all to me. I hear you. Okay, So let's move on to Sag and Sag rising. This happens to be the Sagittarius season, and having that Sun and Mercury in the first house for Sag makes you feel pretty good, pretty buoyant, a lot like yourself, which is great. And that is what we would hope for anyone during their solar return month, which is when the sun is in your sun sign. Now, the eclipse cycle does, Mariko's asking me, when does that transition end? So the cycle of the eclipses is the transition that I'm referring to. And it started back in June of this year. We have 2 eclipses this month in December. We had one on November 30th and one on December 14th. And then we have 2 more in the summer of 2021. And then it finally winds up at the end of 2021. So, any folks, all of us are experiencing these eclipses somewhere in our charts. Scorpio just happens to be experiencing in the house of income, earned income, and income that you share, money that you don't have to earn, but money that that your partner earns or that you receive as an inheritance, as a loan, or as like a tax return, or a unemployment, that kind of money. So for Sag and Sag rising, this is happening in the first house of self-care, but being seen, being visible, and putting out a new version of yourself that feels more aligned and more authentic, and also letting go of a part of yourself that doesn't serve that authenticity. With the South Node eclipses on the first house, this could also be losing weight. I mean, the first house has to do with your body, and the South Node there is like shedding something. It could be shedding pounds. It could be shedding a way of being, that you're really like in a place of taking maybe better care, or focusing more on your physical body. The 6th house is typically the house of wellness and health. However, that first house rules, the outer shell of us. It rules, the clothes that you drape yourself in, the hairstyle, your physique, your mannerisms, how you express your personality. And so that's an area that's really in dynamic cycle of change for Sag and Sag rising. So I would say Sag, you're right in the middle of this really dynamic place. And it's a time where a lot can change for you. A lot can change for you in the relationships that you have, and in the way that you express yourself in the world. So by next Monday, you're going to have this huge new moon solar eclipse on the first house. This is kind of debuting on a grander scale, or showing up in a completely new way. It could be that, and I'll talk more about that eclipse next week, but because it's happening in the first house for Sag, you're feeling it already. You're more than likely already experiencing some of these feelings of letting some important part of yourself change so that you can level up. And then the other big piece of this week, we want to talk about how that Libra moon transiting and in a square aspect with all that stuff in your financial house, maybe some networking, a relationship that came from your professional life, or sort of your, a group that you associate with, that is going to, there's something going on with that group, or something going on with that alliance that you have, that is requiring action, financial action, action around your value system. And this value system change, this situation around how you earn a living and whether it's aligned with your true values, that really gets lit up the first part, like, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And then when we get to Thursday, and Venus is in a nice alignment with Pluto in that second house. The one thing, Sag, you have an opportunity, as long as Venus is in that 12th house, to rest and recuperate. And I don't, some of the Sages that I know are in no way able to do that. They're very busy. But this could be just building in, even a couple extra hours of sleep a night, But because that Mars has been lighting up your deckhand for so many months, you do want to pace yourself, because eclipses in the first house can also lead to exhaustion and burnout. So I would say, it's okay to pace yourself this week, and take it, a little bit easier. Just give yourself a little bit more breathing room if you can. That Venus sextile Pluto, that brings up issues around control and surrender, but in a positive way. So it's maybe that you're able to give yourself a little bit more of a break. And you can see that, oh, there is room for me to take care of myself, even though I'm very busy, even though I have to be doing things constantly. I can also take care and value myself in a new way, and rest. Now, when we get to the end of the week, so Friday, that sun is going to trine Mars. This is when things really, this is super positive for any creative endeavor, any issue around self-expression. You may be, maybe it's that you get recognized in some way for efforts, creative efforts. Maybe it's that your relationship with a new romance gets a nice little zing to it. It could also be that your child or something related to your child's efforts, go more smoothly and get more, that your child is feeling invigorated, or that you and your relationship to your child's self and that sense of joy, that's another way this could show up, is just feeling more joyful, more liberated, more free. And I would say all the air and fire signs are about to feel a lot better. Not that it's not for everyone, but definitely the fire and air signs get a huge lift when that Jupiter Saturn change signs into Aquarius. And it's not like a flying off into the sunset so much as it is just, oh, I feel more effective. Oh, I feel like my efforts are really being recognized and are much more efficient. And the air signs and fire signs, for those of you that don't know, we're talking about Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini, and Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries. So if you have Aries, any of those signs rising on the moon, or your moon is in them, or your sun is in them, this shift could feel very invigorating. Okay, let's go to Capricorn, my favorite sign, one of my favorites, Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So you have been in it for the year, dealing with so much responsibility, so much transformation, so much restructuring of your sense of self, maybe even getting into better shape, maybe even learning how to express yourself more authentically. So all of that Capricorn, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn in the first house has been sort of the big theme of this year. It's been a once in a lifetime transition for Capricorns. This week, the moon is going to square off with that Capricorn from the professional house, when we get to Wednesday, Thursday. So some issue professionally, some issue that has to do with your status, your reputation, that needs to be, some action needs to be taken around that. Some kind of effort needs to be taken to address these issues of showing up authentically, being seen as you really are, owning your status in some way. That's really how the transiting moon affecting that Capricorn stellium could show up. At the same time, you will have the sun in that 12th house, and it's been there for a couple of weeks, in a square aspect to Neptune. So while you're being confronted with this, I need to be authentic, I need to be seen for who I am vibe, you're also kind of like not sure. There may be some confusion around, who am I? And is all this work I've been doing on myself or my business and my status, is all of that clear enough? Do I even know sort of where I am in the scheme of things? So there may be a little bit of anxiety and confusion as the week begins, but then by the time we get into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, certainly, when the sun on Friday trines that Mars, there is this sort of clarity like, oh yeah, no, I am where I need to be. Yes, things are in transition. Yes, I need to surrender some of, it's not really surrender as much as trust. There's this feeling of trusting yourself that you are going to be capable enough to achieve and do and resolve all of these hard problems with your identity you've been dealing with all year. These eclipse cycles are happening in that 12th and 6th house for you. So it really is about owning. It's like being in your body in a new way, in a way that feels maybe healthier, maybe more whole, maybe letting go of some really not so great habits with your health, and not only your physical health, but your mental health. So these are pretty significant transitions that Capricorn's going through with the eclipse cycle. It really is a shedding of old ways of maybe giving away your power or relinquishing a sense of entitlement, like maybe not standing up for yourself in the way that you should, or maybe it just feels like your feeling of a self-assertion and your ability to trust that you're worthy or trust that you're enough. Those are the things that really get called forward and have been, you've been dealing with them all year, but they kind of reach a conclusive moment as we move into the next week or two, really letting go of this weight that you've put on yourself to be perfect, to be everything, and kind of settle into, you know what, I am okay, I am enough, and I'm going to surrender and trust that whatever comes, I am able to manage. It's that kind of vibe. So that's a lot. I mean, that's very weighty for Capricorn, Capricorn rising. And as we move through the end of the week, this is when I'm starting to see a sense of resolution around sort of issues of belonging, issues of self-worth and it's not as much self-worth as being, allowing people to compliment you, allowing people to recognize that you are cool and, deserve all of the gifts that come to you, that kind of thing. I think Capricorn in general tends to be somewhat self-denying. They're so good at holding everybody else's problems and managing everybody else's concerns. Yeah, so Jane's saying it's really difficult to sort of settle in. It is, we're still kind of in that period of adjustment. But I think once that Saturn Jupiter leaves the Capricorn and moves into that place of self-worth and valuing yourself in a new way, Capricorn, you're really going to feel it. So it's right about the time that we go into Capricorn season that you'll see this shift. It's that winter solstice shift. And so there could be a feeling with Capricorns right now of the end of something and the uncertainty of the new beginning, and maybe feeling a little bit anxious about what that new beginning looks like. But I want to tell you, it's going to feel positive. It's going to feel like a boost to your confidence and a boost to your self-worth. Okay. Hello, maybe is saying I shouldn't express myself. Okay, I'm not sure what that means exactly, but I would say no. I think Capricorn and Capricorn risings can express themselves. I think they're going to feel maybe more confident in expressing themselves once we move through the end of this month. So Aquarius and Aquarius rising, we're looking at Saturn and the fact that it's nearing the end of its Capricorn journey. And we're looking at what the sun is doing in that 11th house, which is the Aquarius house. So, this is the eclipse cycle for Aquarius and Aquarius rising is really about self-expression, the 5th house, creative endeavor, your relationship with your inner child, your relationship with your actual children, and maybe changing your tribe, changing where you belong. Looking at areas of belonging, looking at themes around, okay, can I achieve my goals if I'm associated with this particular group, or do I need to change the group association to reach my goals? These are some ways that this eclipse cycle could be showing up for you, Aquarius and Aquarius rising. With this week's astrology, we're really looking at that moon in the 9th house squaring off with all that stuff in the 12th. That there's an issue around surrender that the 12th house has been teaching you all year long, Aquarius. It's almost like the more that you trust, the more that you will be able to achieve. The more that you surrender to your own authenticity. And I think that's an issue with Aquarians, because they kind of were born into this idea that they're different, that they don't really belong, but they can navigate through things feeling like the alien in the midst of the group. I think this year and next year certainly is really when Aquarius starts to embrace their outsider status and become more of an insider. They become more aligned with the cultural shifts. So that's actually going to take some time to get used to, because Aquarians are just kind of generally like okay with being the weirdo. And moving into the next couple of years, they're going to be more popular than they've probably ever been. Because the culture is moving into the Aquarian age. So this week for Aquarians, though, if we just want to like really hone in, I would say that there's a feeling of preparing for that big debut, the feeling of preparing for what's, been behind the scenes for a couple of years, is about to make a big debut. So there's this maybe a feeling of excitement and preparation, and also a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of, will it go off the way I'm expecting? Did I do enough homework? Am I prepared enough? That kind of feeling. By the time we get to Thursday and Friday and Saturday, this feels like you get a kind of an indicator with the sun trining Mars in the 3rd that your messaging is landing, that you are actually reaching the people that you need to reach, and that reception to your messaging is very positive. So that's a good indicator of the way things are going. I mean, right now, Aquarians have Venus in the 10th house. You are being recognized and well received, whether you see it or not. People are noticing you. They are appreciating what you have to offer. It just may be that when we get to the end of next week, you finally start to believe it yourself. I would say that's probably how this is going to show up Friday, Saturday. You really gain some steam the further we get into December. So Aquarians, you're really in that last lap of super hard effort behind the scenes without a lot of recognition. You're really in that last phase. You're about to rocket onto the front page of people's consciousness, the winter solstice and beyond. So this really is a moment of, fine tuning. I'd say this week is fine tuning a lot of those things that you've been working on for so long. Okay, we're going to do Pisces and then we're going to be done. And I'm kind of did this in a little bit faster than I expected to today. If you missed your sign, if you're just joining, I will post this on Instagram. It'll be on my I think it's on my story, but it'll definitely be on my page. And then later today, I'll post it on YouTube with clickable timestamps. So you'll be able to skip over all these other signs and go straight to your sign. If you are interested, you're very welcome, Dave. If you're interested in a reading, I do have some one-on-one time, not a ton. I'm actually booking February at this point. So if you're interested in a reading sooner than later, I would encourage you to go to my web page and book. I'm also selling gift certificates if that's something you want to gift to someone else. I do have that option as well, and that link should be in my bio. You can always just DM me too. I can figure that out. All right, so Pisces and Pisces rising. You're looking at Jupiter, we're looking at Neptune. So since there is some really lovely alignment between Venus and Neptune today, it sort of wanes after today, but you're experiencing some really lovely vibes. So enjoy that today. And that could be a good time to return to your spiritual practice, to do some meditation, to spend some time in nature, to really kind of vibe with the consciousness and this concept of oneness. You really have access to that today, Pisces. But this eclipse cycle, just like with every other mutable sign, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, you're all experiencing this real whirlwind of change on some elemental part of your life. So your identity, your partnerships, where you physically live, and what you do for a living. These are all the areas that are getting change, notifications of change coming. So for you, Pisces, I would say, this week is really in that mix of you're about to evolve on a really grand scale in the way that you see yourself and the way that you present that new self to the world. Those are really big. This week we're looking at how that sun is going to square, the transit sun is going to square Neptune in the first for you. And that's could feel a little bit like vulnerable. It could be that what you're trying to change in your professional life puts you on the stage in a way that feels naked, like you feel a little vulnerable and a little raw. And I would just say, as long as you pace yourself, Pisces, that you're going to be in very good shape as we move through this week. That sun in that 10th house, it trines Mars in the second. So this is earning, maybe getting an opportunity to earn more money, maybe getting recognition that results in more income. And that sun is trining Mars on Friday. So the efforts as we move into the beginning of the week that don't feel fully formed and that feel vulnerable, by the end of the week you're probably going to feel more confident about what you're putting out there. So you don't want to lose the faith necessarily. And even the moon moving into Virgo Monday, and actually it moves into Virgo today in about an hour and a half. And then it stays in Virgo on Monday and Tuesday. You could actually Monday and Tuesday find that a partnership or even a client, someone who can support your goals, shows up and helps you move into either a new group association or helps support your goals in some significant way, Monday, Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, that focus on earned income and versus any loans or outstanding debts that you have, you could be focused on Tuesday, Wednesday, and into Thursday, looking at how is my earning power balanced, and how is my spending and my earning power measuring up? Like, am I spending it as soon as it comes in? Do I need to change my budget somehow so that I have a little bit more in the bank versus how much is going out and owed onto a credit card, that kind of thing. And then when we get to Friday, the moon is in Scorpio at that point, late Scorpio. And so that's in a more supportive placement for your decan. So Friday, Saturday could feel like a renewal of faith in yourself, particularly. So Friday, Saturday feel quite confident to me for you, Pisces. It feels like you go through a little uncertainty at the beginning of the week, but then as we move into the end of the week, you get more confidence and more indication that you are on the right path. I will say, having that South Node in the 10th house, it does suggest that a part of your public self is going to be shed in order for a new version of the self, the public self, to come in. So you don't need to necessarily hold on to that. So, you don't necessarily want that to stay stagnant. You want your public self to be sort of changeable, malleable during the next year, so that you can really step into a new way of being publicly, that your professional identity is up for significant change, and you want to allow that to come in because it's going to benefit you in the long run. And it could mean, when you have the eclipses on the 4th and the 10th house, it could mean a relocation or a change in the way that your physical space looks, or the way your physical space serves your destiny, like your home and property, and even your family relationships are directly affected by this change that's taking place in your professional public self. And so I guess I just want to reassure you that that's sort of where it's supposed to be right now, and you don't want to stand in the way of that change. And one of the things Pisces is really dealing with is the confusion. There's not a lot of clarity that's happening for you, that you often you're feeling like you're covered up in fog and not even sure where you're headed. But you can trust that, the winds of change are moving you in the right direction. Okay, so that, I think, is everything for this week. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for showing up every day, every week. And if you're interested in a reading, just DM me. I have some openings. And have a great week. Stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking a lot about this huge great mutation, is what it's called, happening on winter solstice, the eclipse cycle. A lot is coming online for us, and we just have to stay grounded and anchored in our authenticity as we move through it. All right, have a great week, everybody, and I'll be in touch.